Alright, I'm Sean the Brown here, and this is Ricky, whatever you want to go by. But we're reviewing the Cloud Atlas on Blu-ray. It's directed by the Wachowskis and Tom Tykwer. And we actually saw this in theaters before we watched this. And before I actually jump into the movie, kind of a thing with the collaboration between the Wachowskis and Tom Tykwer, they always wanted to do a film together, and it was kind of like when the Wachowskis were off assisting the director of V for Vendetta. They were in Germany and Tykwer was in Germany, and they didn't really get to talk. And then like the Wachowskis were kind of making a joke how like the directors are like real lonely and they don't get to work with other directors, so they finally got to get a good story going and got the David Mitchell, the guy who wrote the Cloud Atlas book. They found the story that they liked and it had everything in it, and so they went with that, and that is how the beginnings of Cloud Atlas came to be. But it has a hell of a cast in here. It's got Tom Hanks, Halle Berry, Jim Sturgis, Duna Bay, Korean actress, Zhao Zhan, Chinese actress, Susan Sarandon, Hugo Weaving's like the best villain, Hugh Grant, another great villain, David Gyasi. I don't know the other black actor, the guy from Requiem for a Dream. I think his name's David too. And James Darcy, he's the blonde guy, and Ben Whishaw. There's so many people. I don't know the guy that you know from that British show.
Oh yes, the Last of the Summer
what was his,
something
his name Five.
Something Five. Yeah,
yeah,
the guy
Robert
says, I know.
Yeah, I know.
He plays 3 parts in the movie, and he's really hard to catch. Not a very famous actor.
Yes, another thing we noticed watching it, it was actually last night. If you watch through the credits, you'll really see like the multiple roles. I mean, you don't even really catch them. I mean, that's another thing about this. You really got to watch it a few times, and I mean, each time you'll catch something different. But
the makeup work and the costumes was amazing, and it's just the actor skills in that, the challenges they had to go through was amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of like an actor's dream job or their worst nightmare. But yeah, like he was saying, the makeup effects, because some of the people, I mean, you won't even recognize. There'll be guys playing as women or women playing as guys, black guys playing as Chinese guys.
Chinese as black
I mean, everything.
They pulled it up very well.
They did a pretty good job, just the dual, like all the different acting. But and I like the way it's all connected together from like scene to scene. Usually it goes by like how the feeling of the last scene is like kind of connected to the next, or like a certain actor will be in the last scene, they'll jump into them, or whatever they say or do will jump into the next scene. So all the scenes are very well put together. It is really a kind of, I guess you could say, like a mind boggler for watching this at first, because
yeah, it's a very confusing movie. A lot of people probably get lost in theaters and then start talking and leave the theater. And you'll either love it, or if you can sit through it long enough, you'll love it. And if you can't, you don't have much patience, then I wouldn't watch it. But
yeah, it's very, I mean, complex. I mean, you got 6 stories going on at the same time. It starts off, I think the first one's like, I think it's like the 1870s. It's it's Adam Ewing and Tom Hanks' character, something Goose, Harry Goose. He's supposed to be his friend. He's this doctor, and they get on this ship, and he's supposed to go over to San Francisco to his wife. And the whole time, like Harry Goose tells him that he has like this illness, and he's supposed to be giving him medicine, but he's actually poisoning him. And it's like that first segment kind of revolves around like greed and like kind of like racism, because it has like the whole slavery element to it. Like the black guy, he's like what would you call him? He jumps on the ship to hide, and he's like
stowaway.
Stowaway. He's a runaway slave, and then the Adam Ewing, he actually helps him and tries to get him a job on the ship so they won't kill him. So he helps him out along the way, and he actually saves his life from Tom Hanks. There's going to be spoilers in this, by the way. I mean, I'm not gonna. Usually, I try to avoid spoilers, but I mean, otherwise, we wouldn't really be able to talk about a lot of this without ruining it. Yeah, they end up actually killing Tom Hanks there, and at the end he gets to go to see his wife. That also kind of has, there's a couple of parts. That part and the part in the 70s is kind of like a sexist thing towards women with Susan Sarandon's character. And then the one guy in the 70s, he talks about how like he's joking around about the women's lib towards Halle Berry's character, Lisa Ray. So there's kind of elements of that, kind of like discrimination towards women. It shows more of like the putting them lower than men. There's a lot of different like moral things you'll see in this, but that's basically the first story. And then the second one is that's like the 1930s, I think, and it's Robert Frobisher and Sig Smith. Robert Frobisher, he goes to he's a songwriter, and he goes to the Vivian, I forget his damn last name, the old guy played by Jim Broadbent, Vivian something. He goes there and he's composing he's starting to write new songs, and he needs him to help compose his songs for him. And that let's see, I'm trying to think a good way to put it. It's kind of like that part is kind of like a discrimination towards like people that I guess are like different. But once you see the film, it's like the relationship between Robert and Sig Smith. It's kind of like just showing like discrimination towards them, and just like even at the time it was showing like discrimination against Jews. How like the one guy was supposed to be, he was married to his Jewish wife, which is played by Halle Berry, but he don't even really care for her since she's Jewish. And at the same time, he's working on, he builds his own song, the Cloud Atlas Sextet. Actually becomes a whole orchestra album, and then that even is connected into the next segment. You'll see things, and every story is connected. And then it goes into the 70s, which Halle Berry, Lisa Ray, she writes like mystery novels, and she works for this Spyglass. She does like interviews and stuff and writes articles for them. And that segment kind of deals with like greed and corruption, because she goes over to the I forget the name. They're a nuclear plant, and or no, it's the oil guys, the Hydra something, but she goes over there, or actually it starts off with Sig Smith when he's older, and he knows the secrets about them, because what they're doing is they're supposedly they're gonna start the nuclear power, but they're actually gonna blow it up so they can jack up the prices of oil. That's where it kind of goes into like the greed and corruption thing. But he wants to give her the secret, and then there's another great. That's like one of the first. I think the first time it shows Hugo Weaving. He plays like Bill Smoke, the assassin, and he kills him, and then he tries to kill Lisa Ray, knocking her off a bridge, and then the Joe, the black, what's his name? Actually, you know what? It probably says his name on here. Keith David, that's his name. Yeah, that's the black guy, Keith David. If you ever seen Wrecking for a Dream or anything else you can think of that he was in, I think it was actually in They Live with the John Carpenter film. But she goes out to the plant to interview, and while she's there, she comes across, or she looks for some documents in Sigmund's old room. And then Tom Hanks discovers her in there. Instead of giving her away, he actually covers for her. And then he actually helps her out, and he gives her the documents, which shows all the secrets about what they're really doing. And they kill him, and then they try to kill her again. And that it's kind of each story it goes to show like just helping people out is really, really what a lot of the film is about. It's really like the human spirit and just the goodness that people can do in this world if they really try. But,
and how people normally stick to their same paths in different lives.
Yeah, that too. You'll notice there's a lot of connections between like each character, like different generations, and they end up actually surviving the assassin Bill Smoke and killing him, and they get the documents out in the public. And then it goes into the modern day one, 2012. It starts off, it's called like the Lemon Prizes or whatever. But that is like one of the best, like Tom Hanks. He's like this author, gangster, just the Knuckle accent. Sandwich. He does, yeah, he writes the Knuckle Sandwich, and it's not selling. And then Jim Broadbent, he plays Timothy Cavendish. He's like his publisher. And this one critic, like, pretty much disses the hell out of, I forget his damn name. I think it's like something Hagen. Starts with a D, but he pretty much disses his book, and then he's like All right, back at it. It does that from time. I don't know why. I guess if we bullshit long enough, it'll do that. But trying to think where we were at. We're at them two, and he actually throws the guy off the balcony. It actually shows him hitting the ground. But then it goes into, I guess the old guy Timothy. He was into, I guess it was like some bad people or some bad connections. Because while he's making money off the book, they show up while he's
On the
like,
crapper.
yeah, on the crapper.
Bad spot.
Yeah, what a spot to be in a situation like that. And they want 50 grand from him, and he tries to get help from his brother, who's actually played by Hugh Grant.
Several people. He tries to get help from several people.
Yeah.
He has a
His-
reputation already of asking for money, so nobody will help him.
Yeah, nobody will help him out. And then he travels out there by train. First he talks to his brother, and his brother don't want to help him, but then he schemes this idea because he actually runs this place called the Aurora House, and he tells him he can hide him. So he goes out there by train to the Aurora House, and it's actually a place where they like lock up their parents and relatives if they pay
Like a
to
retirement
keep
home.
them there. Yeah, it's like a retirement home, and that's like the funniest like place or the funniest scenes in the whole movie because Hugo Weaving plays this big like buffed out woman. He's like the what would you call him? It's kind of
the
he's like kind of like the nurse, like the nursing home like assistant, I guess is what you would call him.
I don't know.
I know there's a name for it, but like the Timothy.
Disorderly. something.
Yeah, he shows up there. He thinks he's in the hotel, and he finds out that he's supposed to stay there, and he tries to escape. He is telling him about how like this big demented bitch hits him and stole his keys. It's pretty funny, and he tries to escape there. And then him and like this one guy and the woman, and then the I know guy. They come up with this plan to get out of there. They call these people up and tell them that it's like their mom or whatever is fixing to die, and like they need to get the last will, and they rush out there. And they get the plot to lock up the Hugo Weaving's character, and they get in the car, and they almost leave the. What if they ever saw? Oh, Mr. Meeks. Yeah, that's his
Mr. Meeks,
name.
Yeah, they had
Yeah.
some back for him.
They come back and they get out the gates, and it's pretty funny because they go to a bar, and then they follow them to the bar in the van, and that's when Mr. Meeks he actually like says stuff. He's like gets up on there. And it's like yelling, and then
Saying
everybody.
they're taking advantage of him, and the Scottish
Yeah.
people need to stand
Yeah,
up.
we're in
and
like a
help
wee
him, and they start a
bit need
massive
help.
soccer brawl.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's like this Irish soccer fans, and like they actually help them out. And they go into this massive like kind of like classic bar fight scene.
Most of the comedy would be in that part of the movie.
Yeah, it definitely is. A lot of good British actors in that part. And he ends up getting back. He is his old love, actually played by Susan Sarandon. He kind of like there's that pretty funny part too about him trying to have sex with her, and then he ends up having to go to the hospital. And finally, he decides to go back to her, and he writes. It plays out through the movie. He actually writes a screenplay. I think it's called like The Ghastly Ordeals of Timothy Cavendish, which later on they'll actually show. And the next segment we'll fixing to get to, and Neo Soul will actually show. Tom Hanks actually plays as his character, but they'll show the movie there. He talks about it, and then they even use his line. It's like, "I'll not be subjected to criminal abuse." Like they kind of like use that through there, and then
It inspired in the
yeah,
future.
yeah, it inspired. Like everything it builds up. Like you'll see that, and then it goes into the Neo Soul segment, which that's probably my personal favorite segment. It's like this like 2100 like futuristic. Set in Korea. It's all like high tech, like flying cars. I mean, high like technology.
Complete different breed of people.
Yeah.
Like as if people would evolve in the future, give you a different mindset. Instead of being like an everyday thing, things change and adapt.
Yeah, you'll see the languages really change too, especially in the very last parts. But this part it starts off with it's Sunmi 451. She's a fabricant, and they're they're basically these slaves. This part, the last part I guess would kind of deal with like more trying to be close to family since his brother hates him and throws him out there. So the last part would kind of be like stay close to like family. They're all about really just kind of going for it and helping each other. But this part kind of deals with like slavery and like trying to think here, what would be more kind of like just like this
Slave
one's
labor.
slave labor deals like consumerism, kind of more corruption because they keep this thing a secret, which we'll friction
A
against
really dark
that.
recycling process.
Yeah. But the Sunmi 451, they're the fabricants. They're actually genetically made to look a certain way, and all their life is they stay in this little cafe place called Papa Songs, and the same thing day in and day out. They just like serve people, and they drink this stuff called soap, and then it's just like every day. And she's in an interview, and it cuts back and forth. This guy's questioning her, and then
Some of the saddest parts for me was that.
yeah. So like the best crying is like Dunabe's crying in this. And then another, what's his name? Jim Sturgis, he plays as Commander Heiju Chang. He's like they're like called the Union. He's kind of like a rebel, I guess you'd call him.
An uprising.
An uprising. And then he goes there and finds her. And because of what happens with, I think her name's like Una 939 or something like that, the Chinese woman, she actually gets killed. She tries to escape because she hits this guy who's doing stuff to her, and then she tries to escape, and they wear these things around their necks, and if all he does, he presses a button, and it just like just ends them. It like goes straight into the neck, I guess.
Just like in Fortress with Christopher Lambert.
Well, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
That's
kind of like
I've seen that.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're actually right. Yeah, they like actually like blow up, and that
They were used for
like,
slave labor.
that actually would kind of be a reference to the Fortress on there. And then it kind of references Soylent Green because the way with the soap they're actually eating themselves, but the whole thing is like he gets her out of there, and he kind of shows her she's never got to know anything about like her history or knowledge, so she gets to learn all that. And they watch the movie that Timothy Cavendish has made, and they almost get caught. That's like probably one of the best action scene in the movie, is where the
Some
cops
great
are.
special effects.
Yeah, the cops are chasing
Of course,
them.
the Wachowski brothers.
Yeah,
They're gonna have that special effects.
and it's kind of like they chase. Actually, at first she gets they show up at their room, and they're going across this like little bridge thing that he shoots across, and he falls off, and they capture her. And then he disguises himself as like one of the cops, and he has like this gun fu martial arts fights where he gets her back, and then they go to make their escape in this little kind of like it was like a plumbing. It's like a Korean like 24-hour plumbing, and then he fights him again, and they go on this kind of like bike to bike ride chase scene and they goes in this underwater tunnel, and they get the ones, they flush them out, and they barely escape the water. That's like probably one of the best action scenes in the movie, and it kind of cuts in between the past scene with the slave guy. If they let him, if he can work fast enough,
Prove himself to stay on the ship.
Yeah,
They were gonna kill him though, but
yeah, they were gonna kill him. The guy almost shoots him, and that's like the old guy, what's his name? I know guy. He's actually in that segment.
as a pirate,
It's like kind of like a pirate crew
steering
member.
the ship.
Yeah,
so
he
keep
steers
an eye
the
out
ship.
for him. You won't recognize him.
Yeah, and even though it's like the fifth or fourth time, I didn't even know it was him. You'll really see stuff like that. But they escape that, and then they go to meet the Keith David guy, who's like the Chinese black guy, and she still don't really feel like she's up to it. So he tells the Heiju Chang to show her like the one last thing, and that's where they go to the factory. It sounds like all like Papa Song sounds like all these like smiley faces, and they go in there, and they think I guess they're called fabricants, but they all go in there, and they think that they stay for like 6 months or so long, and they starve their like necks or whatever, and after so long, supposedly they free them.
Ascend.
Yeah,
into
they
the community
ascend.
up above, but
And they go there, and it's like one of the saddest scenes because they walk in this room, and they actually like shoot them in the head with this like steel thing and kill them.
the same as they do with cattle.
Yeah, it's pretty much how they treat them as cattle, and then they just recycle them as kind of like that's called the soap, is what they give the fabricants to drink, and they eat themselves.
A lot of protein.
Yeah. And then after she sees that, she agrees to be in that's like the biggest, most memorable speech in the whole movie. There's a lot of good lines in this. y'all are gonna get tired of us talking some shit, but it'll be a review. But I'm trying to remember what she says. It's like, our lives are not our own. From womb to tomb. How does it go? Our lives are not our own. From womb to tomb, we are bound to others, past and present. With each crime and every kindness, we birth our future. There's just so many good lines in this. That's like probably my favorite line in the whole movie. There's also kind of like when it goes lower into the streets of the Neo Soul, that's kind of like a Blade Runner tribute. If you ever seen Blade Runner, if you'll watch like the streets of that, you'll notice it's almost like a direct tribute to that. But then the last segment is like the farthest futuristic segment. It's like 106. What is it? It's like after so many falls after the winter, I think is the title. It's a ways, like, because Seoul gets flooded, and it's like there's probably been like who knows how many world wars or whatever. There's like hardly nobody on Earth. It's all like little villages.
Underwater.
It's all it's like back. It goes more primitive. And so the language kind of like devolves.
The language is very primitive.
And they make their own language, like the true, all kinds of stuff. Like I was is eyes, and like suppin is like supper.
It reminds me a lot of Yoda. They're talking backwards in sentences.
Yeah, that is pretty. Yeah, it is kind of. It's pretty funny. But Tom Hanks, like every character he plays, he does like a different kind of like accent for him. He pulls them off like perfectly.
Amazing.
But it starts off, they're at this, his name, he's called Zachary, is his character in this. And they're out there like gathering stuff. I guess it's fixing to be for the barter, because they're called like the Presbyans or whatever. They show up every like twice or three times a year to barter goods with them. And so they're like kind of trying to find stuff. And then there's like the cannibals, and Hugh Grant plays, and they have like blood and like white and like black paints, and they look just really like...
I didn't even recognize Hugh Grant the first time. I was like, what?
Yeah, really. Even their horses are painted down, and they use like the swords, and he actually hides, and they kill his friend and his son there. And then another amazing, it probably is my favorite Hugo Weaving performance, but he's the old Fangy Devil, Georgie himself. I guess like Tom Hanks can see him. If once you watch the movie so much, it's kind of like, because Tom Hanks plays a lot of bad characters. So I was kind of, if you watch, there's a lot of behind the scenes on this, like the Wachowskis were saying. It's kind of like all the bad things in his past are kind of still like following him, and so he's still kind of like dealing with like the darkness of like he's trying to be good, and it's kind of trying
making good decisions.
Yeah, trying to pull him back into it.
Bad conscience is trying to take him over by killing, and
he's always trying to get him to do like the bad things or whatever, make him do like different choices, trying to just kind of pull him down. But
which is how his friend and his son got murdered in front of him because of that.
Yeah.
The voices were telling him to stay.
Yeah,
he started to overcome that.
That's the main thing about the last one is really kind of like he doesn't really, he hides and he doesn't really act on anything, and then it's kind of just like breaking the boundaries, and he finally like agrees to help, and he helps, and he like kind of pushes forward, and he changes.
Good prevails over evil.
Yeah, it's kind of like what the main thing on this one is. But the Presbyans show up, and Halle Berry, I forget her damn name. It's like Marinin, something like that. Marinin. I'll have to watch it again. But they dress in like these white, and they have like that's some trick in makeup, because it like goes into their skin. They can like, it's like electronic, like
it's
computer,
like chains,
because they can like digitally. It's just some amazing special effects in this. But she shows up bartering, and after, because nobody believes, they think that maybe he might have killed him, but only like his sister. Well, she's like a Chinese white woman. She's actually Chinese playing as a white woman, but her and her daughter are like the only ones that actually believe him. So, and he's like a goat herder.
He distanced himself. And They distance him and keep an eye on him, and they lose trust in him.
Yeah, and trying to see, because Halle Berry, like, she's there. They say they're bartering, but she's actually looking like her race is actually dying. So they're trying to get to that place, which is up on the mountain, like Mount Sol or whatever, so they can try to find help from the stars. Is what they're really actually trying to do. And then this one little girl, the woman's daughter, she actually gets bit or whatever by like, what's that kind of fish? it's like a scorpion fish, I think is what they say.
Fish, yeah.
And she's gonna die. And so he actually helps her. She almost falls off a bridge. Which actually, they make these prophecies. Susan Sarandon does. She's kind of like the fortune teller or fortune seer. It's like a bridge of broken, hide below, hands are bleeding, don't let go, enemy sleeping, don't slit his throats. If you kind of like remember,
there's a lot of interesting powers for an herbalist because she's supposed to be an herbalist.
yeah. And like her eyes change. That was pretty neat. Her eyes actually change colors when she's like doing the whole. And they all worship. It's funny because they all actually worship Sunmi 451. They think she's like this like goddess or whatever, so they worship her in the future. They even have this little book they made. But he goes out there to Halle Berry's character, and he tries like if you help save the little girl, I'll take you to the devil, to the mountains. Well, even to the out to the devil himself or whatever, if that's where you want to go. So she agrees to help with the save the little girl, and then it goes with their voyage, and they go out onto the mountains. And then like they use like the rope called like the smart rope, and then she almost falls and he stops, and that's another part where it's like kind of like this the sayings that Susan Sarandon said are in his mind. So it's kind of like they're supposed to live by the prophecies. At the same time, Hugo Weaving, the devil character, is kind of telling him, he's like, let go of the rope, and he's like conflicted with like doing bad or good.
Yeah, which is when he starts to prevail over his dark side, I guess.
Yeah.
Starts to make right choices, and then he lives happily after that.
Yeah, and then they get to the top of the mountain, and that's probably like the hardest part for him, because while she's like sending her message, like the Hugo Weaving character is like he's talking to him, trying to make him think that like she's lying to him, she's not telling him the truth or the true. And
well, they were raised to believe a certain thing, and she's going against everything they were.
Yeah, everything
taught.
that he's pretty much taught and believes, he kind of has to just like throw that out the window, and have trust in her and have faith in her to believe that they're doing the right thing. And
he
then
almost kills her over it.
Yeah, he actually almost kills her with his little knife because of the way. But he actually overcomes that, and then on the way back, they see his village burning, and he runs in there, and they've killed everyone.
Well, everybody.
I mean, except for the little girl, and that's where he finds the Hugh Grant laying there from the part where she says, it's kind of like he actually finally breaks away from his ancestry. It's kind of like a prophecy thing. She says like, enemy sleeping, don't slit that throats. And then he changes he's supposed to follow that. But he actually, he changes it, and he actually stands up and he kills him. And then it goes, that's actually another good action scene, because he gets the little girl, they run out in the woods, and the other cannibals show up and they chase him out there.
They even do some parkour.
I was surprised. Yeah, they like run down trees and roll. They actually do a little bit of parkour. Yeah. But that on the very beginning, how Tom Hanks has a scar on his face, and this is where you learn about his scar, because he has like the sword to his throat, and Halle Berry shoots the guy that has him, and his sword cuts his face. So in the end, the first and last, you'll actually see how that scar comes to be.
From the beginning to the end, it all comes together.
Yeah, like the first scene is kind of the last scene in the movie.
Just have patience with it. If you can make it to the end, you'll start to understand it.
Yeah, and they killed them. They killed the cannibals, and then he goes. There's nobody left. It's just him and the girl, and so they join him. And she's like, if you want to go with us, feel free to go. And so they go with them, and that's where kind of like, because of him and her being together, it kind of forms their relationship. And then it cuts back from the first scene way back to the last scene, like way in the future. He's old, and Halle Berry's old, and he's at the campfire talking to the kids, telling them about like all the different voices in the wind whispering, all these past kind of voices are all connecting. And then it's actually not even on Earth. In the beginning, you would think it's on Earth, because you wouldn't know.
I think it is. And he's actually telling the whole movie at the beginning, but you don't catch it because it's hard to understand their language too. Yeah, you wouldn't even catch it, and until you just watch it a couple of times. And I guess this pretty much sums up all the different stories. There's just so many different, little connections. Like in the futurist one, he finds that little the thing off of Adam Ewing's little
jacket.
His
evil character in the past actually cuts that off because he's like greedy and takes it. And then in the future, like thousands of years, I don't know how much of that y'all missed. Hopefully, I guess we'll see. Whenever I edit this, if there's a lot, we can go back kind of. My camera's being a little bitch. But I guess we ramble on way too damn long.
Yeah, well, it's very good.
It is a long ass review. But that's probably. We'll just end it. But that's our review for Cloud Atlas, and thanks for watching.